President Donald Trump won majorly on Super Tuesday, the largest day of nominating contests for the US presidency, emerging well ahead of former UN ambassador and Trump cabinet member Nikki Haley, who bowed out of the race. She even declined to endorse former President Trump, but called on him to earn the support of moderates and independents who backed her in the primary. On the Democrat side, US President Joe Biden swept over 13 voting states. This means that Americans will see Biden and his predecessor Donald Trump go head-to-head in a rematch in November this year, even though not enough states will have voted until later this month for Trump or Biden to formally become their party's presumptive nominees. Even though Biden and Trump dominated the primaries and their parties, polls released by the AP Nork Center for Public Affairs Research found out that the broader electorate does not want this year's general election to be identical to the 2020 US presidential race. The poll showed that the majority of Americans don't think either Biden or Donald Trump have the necessary mental acuity for the job. Predictably enough, Indian American candidate Nikki Haley suspended her Republican presidential campaign soon after losing to Donald Trump. Here's how Republican and Democrat strategists have assessed her exit. I'd like to know from you, what do you think? Where did Nikki Haley, actually go wrong? Because remember, she did start off on a very promising note.
Well, I don't think anybody really had a prayer of beating Donald Trump in this primary. I mean, this is Trump's primary in the base right now, and it was a tough road no matter what. But I think, as I sort of mentioned earlier, she really didn't take a firm position at the beginning. It sort of felt like maybe she was positioning herself to try and be VP. Maybe she was trying to go sort of a more Chris Christie route and be the opposite of Trump within the party, but she vacillated. It wasn't clear on a number of issues. And I think she has found a lane and a voice in the last couple months, but it's just not enough time to see would that have really made a bigger dent and an effect. There's been a lot of speculation about, even in the states where Trump has been winning, like within North Dakota, where he only received 1,800 votes, and there's a lot of speculation of, oh, look, that's a real lack of enthusiasm, even though he's winning it. But I think it's more the base saying, I think he's got it, and people having a very busy day and, not being able to get to the polls, or they don't have absentee or early vote in their state, and they have jobs where that's tough, and their kids got sick, and they're like, well, my guy is going to win anyway. I think there's just a lot of confidence within their base,
True.
Rightly so, about that.
Corinne, it's actually very sad, because if you look at Nikki Haley's path at the moment, it's full of obstacles, especially when it comes to amassing delegates. Unless she starts winning primaries, which either is not happening, what does this now mean for Nikki Haley and her future in the entire presidential race? As Nicole was also pointing out, that perhaps she may have wanted to place her bets on becoming VP, but even that seems bleak in terms of hope.
Yeah, it seems to me that would be the strategy that makes the most sense at this point, that she's staying in to prove that she's somehow relevant enough to get a position in the administration. I don't know if that is the best plan for her. It seems like that is getting further and further away. And we've seen, a lot of her little surge of support that probably streamlined her messaging that Nicole was mentioning is that she had big backers in the formerly conservative movement, like the Koch organizations, who stood behind her, and they helped her campaign out a lot, hoping that she would somehow be a real competitor against Trump. That didn't happen, and now they have all pulled out. So I think that she's really hemorrhaging support here, if she ever really had any to begin with, and I don't know where she thinks it's going.
Also, CNN News 18's Sanjay Suri has tracked the Super Tuesday developments for us from ground level. Here's a report by Sanjay on what the Super Tuesday results meant for Donald Trump. Listen in.
A second bold issue that has arisen through these elections, and the primaries particularly, is that the mass of cases against Trump is not working against him. They may even be working for him, and we've seen signs of that in opinion polls for weeks and months now, and now the real polls are beginning to say the same thing. This is a huge vote delivered for Trump, and by voters who know all about the cases against him. It has not stopped them, and it appears, of course, to have encouraged them rather. And together with that, we see the cases themselves beginning to drop away. The January 6th rioting case at Capitol Hill has been delayed because the Supreme Court is listening to it, and that means that there will not be a hearing, very likely now, or not a trial before the elections. We've seen the classified documents case go into uncertainty. We had a date May the 20th, no new date from the judge when a trial might begin, and that's a judge who has been appointed by Trump. We see the case in Georgia slipping away over an issue of relationship between prosecutors. The one that seems to be going ahead is the New York case with Stormy Daniels, but that's the weakest of the lot.
The entire Super Tuesday hustle bustle, US President Joe Biden has delivered a State of the Union speech in which he's accused former President Donald Trump for kowtowing to Russia, failing to care about COVID-19 and even papering over the January 6 Capitol Hill assault. Biden opened his remarks with a direct criticism of Donald Trump for comments inviting Russian President Vladimir Putin to invade other NATO nations if they did not spend more on defense. The president drew a contrast with Donald Trump, his Republican challenger in the November election, over democracy, abortion rights, and even the US economy during a speech that Democrats see as a high-profile chance for Biden to press his case for a second term in front of a rare TV audience of millions of Americans. Biden even accused Trump and Republicans of trying to rewrite history about the January 6 Capitol Hill riot by the former president's supporters seeking to overturn Joe Biden's 2020 victory.